Hello, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me. So, this is Azhar, and I'll be moderating this session. We'll be starting off with the webinar. I'd like to thank all of you viewers for taking out your time and joining us this evening for a webinar on automaton. So let me just give you all a brief on what exactly are we going to discuss in this specific webinar today. So the agenda for this webinar would be starting off with the introduction for the entire Automaton India 2020 program. And then we will move on to Microsoft Azure. That is, we have a speaker from Microsoft team who will be introducing you to the fundamentals of Microsoft Azure, and also will be talking about the cognitive services over their cloud. And also we have another very renowned speaker from Automation Anywhere who will be giving an introduction to Automation Anywhere A2019. And apart from this, since this webinar is coming under the umbrella of Automaton India 2020 program, we also have a few solutions and use cases which will be talked by our speakers, so that it'll be useful for all our developers who are taking part in this particular program. And finally, for sure, any webinar that has to be there, the question and answers. So feel free to just shoot out your questions in the chat box, and we will be taking in questions post the speaker's session, so that it'll be useful for all of us in our future. And now I'd like to take some time to welcome our speakers who have taken their time out of their busy schedule. And we have some very well-renowned speakers from the ecosystem. So we have Mukund Srigopal, who's the Global Head Developer Marketing for Automation Anywhere. Uh, Thanks a lot, Mukund, for joining us today, and we are more than happy to have you. We also have Abhishek Gupta, who's the Senior Cloud Developer Advocate for Microsoft. And thanks a lot to you as well, Abhishek. We are glad that you've joined us for this specific webinar to share your experience as well. And now I'd like to welcome Mukund Srigopal to introduce all our viewers to Automaton India 2020 and shed some light on why should you take part in this program and what's in it for you. So Mukund, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Azhar. And hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be able to speak with you today. Again, my name is Mukund Srigopal. I head Global Developer Marketing at Automation Anywhere. And Automation Anywhere, along with Microsoft, is really pleased to bring this program to you. So in the next few slides, I will be giving you a brief overview of Automaton. I'll be telling you what it is. I'll be telling you, everything that is going to be covered as a part of this program. I'll talk a little bit about the sort of the exciting prizes and sort of the final outcome that will drive towards with this event. So very quickly, what is this program? What is Automaton? This is essentially the ultimate goal of Automaton is to get developers like yourselves to build automation solutions that either leverage or operate on Microsoft Azure services using the Automation Anywhere A2019 platform, right? So let me dwell on this for just a moment. Automation Anywhere basically offers an automation platform on which you can build software-based robots or bots that automate business processes. So what the end goal of this program is to get developers like you to build bots that either use Azure Cloud Services, for example, Azure Cognitive Services, to solve a problem, or they operate on Azure Cloud Services. So they perform an operation on Azure Cloud. For example, an IT operation, like spinning up VMs or spinning down VMs and so on. So that's really the end goal of the program. Next slide. Where this is all driving towards is a grand hackathon and career fair that will happen at Microsoft's offices in Bengaluru on the 28th of March. We're giving away cash prizes worth 3.5 lakhs for this program. There are 3 types of activities that you will be performing as a part of this program. First, there are a number of learning and enablement activities. We're going to offer you a series of webinars like this one. This is the first one that we're doing to kick off the program. There'll be other webinars where you'll actually get hands-on exposure to building on Azure Cloud, as well as on Automation Anywhere. So these webinars, and we're also running a set of meetups in cities like Bangalore, New Delhi, Hyderabad, and Pune, where you can actually meet with members of Microsoft and Automation Anywhere and learn to really get some hands-on experience, meet other developers. You can form your teams, think about, ideate around what types of solutions or what types of bots you can build that leverage Azure Cognitive Services or that operate on Azure Cognitive Services. When there'll be a series of quizzes that will essentially help you test your own knowledge. These quizzes won't count towards points in terms of qualifying for the online hackathon, but these are just for you to test your own knowledge. And but then participating in the quiz, if every member of your team participates in the quiz, then you will get some credit towards qualifying for the Grand Hackathon. Once you form your teams and build automation solutions and submit them, we will evaluate your solutions and essentially invite the top submissions, the teams that submit the top solutions, to come participate in the live hack and career fair in Bangalore. We're also offering to cover some of the travel expenses for the top team that qualifies in the online hackathon to come fly into Bangalore to attend the live hackathon if they're not based in Bangalore. Now, here's a brief schedule of activities for the Automathon program. I'm not going to read through this, but as you can see, we're starting today with a kickoff webinar. And then there's a series of meetups, starting with one tomorrow in Hyderabad, and then one on the day after tomorrow in Bangalore. So if you're either in Hyderabad or Bangalore or New Delhi, where there's a meetup happening on the 1st of Feb, or if you're in Pune, where there's a meetup happening on the 15th of Feb, please do consider attending these meetups live. So you get to really, try hands-on, building solutions. You meet other people in your city whom you can form teams with to compete in this program. And then there's a series of webinars, like I mentioned earlier. The first quiz will be due by the 1st of March. We'll open on the 1st of March and will be due. And then the online hackathon submissions will be due on the 4th of March. If you have formed your teams, or if you're participating alone, which you're welcome to do as well, although participating as a team usually makes it a more interesting exercise where you learn from each other and you collaborate to build a solution. But you may start building your solution if you already have ideas around things that you can automate, any business process or any solution that you can build with using Automation Anywhere's platform that also involves Azure services. You can start building, but your submissions will be due for the online hackathon by the 4th of March. Now, between the 12th and the 16th of March, we will announce the top submissions and invite those teams to come and participate in the Grand Hackathon and Career Fair that, as I mentioned earlier, will happen on the 28th of March in Bangalore at Microsoft. Again, I want to reiterate that if you have any questions on this, a copy of this webinar will be available in the resources section on the Automathon page, which Azhar will shortly walk you through. So you may always go back and listen to this, and feel free to also post any questions you may have on anything that I've said or any of the other speakers mentioned, and we will do our best to answer them at our earliest convenience. Now the exciting part. What are the prizes we're offering? So I mentioned earlier that we're offering 3.5 lakhs worth of prizes in total. That splits up into prizes for the online hackathon. So even if you just compete in the online hackathon and are don't make it to the grand hackathon, or for some reason you're not able to travel, you are still you still stand a chance to win prizes if your team's solution outranks other solutions. The first prize is rupees 50,000, the second is 35,000, and the third prize is 15,000 rupees. These are prizes for the entire teams, and so that adds up to 1 lakh in prizes for the online hackathon. And the teams that make it qualify in the online hackathon, that get invited to the grand hackathon, will essentially have 24 hours to work together to build a solution. And more guidance will be provided during that live event. But the first prize for the grand hackathon is 1 lakh rupees. The second prize 75,000, and the third prize, it says second prize again there, but it's the third prize, is 25,000. So we're giving away 2 lakhs in total of prize money for the grand hackathon. So all together, we're giving away more than 3 lakhs worth of prizes.
Okay, so that was the introduction about the entire automaton program by Mukund. Thanks a lot for shedding some light upon the entire program. Will be carried forth over the Skillenza platform, where I believe you've already registered for the automaton program. And this platform, we basically host challenges where professional developers can come and showcase their skills, and also they take part in community events and similar hackathons like Automaton India 2020. We do regular host such hackathons. And now moving forth, now I believe many of you might have registered and may have some, questions on how exactly do we go ahead and how exactly do we register for the meetups or for any of the webinars that are coming up. So I'm just going to take a few minutes here, and I'll just make sure that all of you are clear at this point. And of course, any questions that you have regarding the platform or the registration process, please feel free to shoot out questions in the chat box, and I'll make sure that I clarify all your questions. And quickly moving on our demo session. Right. So like you can see, I'm over the Skillenza platform, and basically this is how once you sign up, you can take a look at your profile. And here there's a tab which says activities. So like I can see, there's an automaton program here on top of my screen. Just click over this particular program and you'll be taken to the main activity page of the entire program. So you guys can get a complete overview of the program in the about section. That is, why exactly are we, organizing this Automaton India 2020 program, and what's in it there for you. Like you guys can see, and Mukund has already talked about, we have various educational webinars. Then we have meetups in different cities. That is Hyderabad, Pune, New Delhi, and Bangalore as well. Apart from that, we'll be having 3 online quizzes where you guys can take part in those quizzes, and that will also carry some weightage while you're being judged for the final hackathon. And then there will be an online hackathon stage where you guys can submit your ideas or prototypes that you've worked on during the entire program. And based on these particular criteria, that is on the online hackathon submission, we'll be shortlisting the teams for the grand hack or the career fair. And this is about the program again, and why should you take part in this particular program. So some of the things that I'd like to emphasize once again, that is, there's going to be a prize pool of INR 3.5 lakh rupees. And apart from this, for the teams who are shortlisted for the grand hack, as Mukund already mentioned, we'll be taking care of their travel reimbursements as well. And then there will be free software and learning resources which will be provided by Automation Anywhere and Microsoft. So the resources can be found over our activity page itself. That is the resources tab that you can you see here. You can just click here and you can take a look. So Automation Anywhere resources can be found here. And then taking a look at the other perks that you guys have. So there will be opportunities where you can meet like-minded developers and you can network with people from the industry. And yes, it'll be a great opportunity for you to explore as well. One of the main thing that I love hackathons is the swags and the goodies that we receive. So in this particular hackathon as well, we'll be having a lot of swags and goodies which will be given to the shortlisted participants on the day of the hackathon. Next, so this is an entire overview where you can take a look of how exactly does this program work. That is registration and how do you sign up for the Automation Anywhere Community Edition, and also the sign up for Microsoft Azure account. And if you have any queries or any discussions that you want to, discuss with the participants who have registered, you guys can just post it over the discussion forum. And you can also take a look at the timeline here, right? Now let's just quickly move into the stages on how exactly, on what are the steps that you have to be taking care once you register over the platform. So this is the first stage where you can just click on start the stage. And there are a couple of questions which you have to basically answer. That is, have you used Automation Anywhere? So these are a couple of questions that we want to understand so that we can push out the resources in a particular format, which would be actually useful for you guys during the entire program and also after the program, basically. So once you answer all these questions and fill the necessary deliverables which are asked for, you can simply click on end stage, which is on the right hand corner of your screen. Just click on end stage and there are two options that will pop up. So one is return later and the second is finish activity. So let me just give you a brief. So all the stages will have this particular, drop down, which will be asking you these questions. So return later is basically where you haven't filled the questions and you want to get back later and fill the necessary questions, so you can just click on return later. Whereas finish activity is something where once you click on finish activity, you won't be able to enter the stage again. So for now, I'll just click on return later as I haven't filled all of these particulars which are listed out. And I just click on go back to activity timeline and it takes me back to this particular page, right? Now, this particular team formation stage is dependent on more about you. So once you fill in all the particulars or in the more about you section, you will be qualified for the next round where you will find two tabs. That is one where you can invite members to join your team by creating a new team. So once you click on resume stage, which will be displayed here, once you complete this stage, you can just click on that particular stage and you can form a new team. You can give it a name, say coders, and then you can send out invites either by sending invites to the respective Skillenza handles, or you can send an invite using their email IDs as well. So that is one way of forming the team. And the second way would be just by requesting to join team. So once you enter the stage, which will be here, you can just click on enter stage and you can see that there are tabs which says request to join teams. So you can simply request to join some team and you can join their team as well, right? And so that was about the team formation stage. Then I'll just quickly give you a brief on how to sign up for webinars. I believe you all must be aware about the webinar tabs because this was the first webinar, and since we have passed the time, so the stage is closed now. But let me just quickly take you to the webinar 2. So over the webinar, you can just click on start stage and you just have to confirm your presence, say that you are planning to attend the second webinar on 8th of Feb. Just give your presence, confirm your presence, click on submit. Submission is received. I then click on end stage. Again, here, since I've already given the necessary details, I just click on finish activity. Are you sure? Yes. and it takes me back to the same stages which are displayed over the platform. Now, talking about any of the meetups. So like I mentioned, we have three meetups. One is in Hyderabad, which is happening on January 24th. Then the second meetup is on 25th of Jan happening in Bangalore. And we have Delhi meetup on 1st Feb. And also there's a meetup in Pune, which is on 15th Feb, right? So for the meetup, it's the similar format where you just click on start stage. Once you click on start, you can just take a look at the instructions which are mentioned. So just give it a read that this particular meetup is by Automation Anywhere and Microsoft, just to ensure that all of you to, come out with the best solutions by getting some help in the offline meetups, as Mukul mentioned. And you just click on start button. And the same way, you just confirm your presence here, say, yes, I'll be attending the meetup. And then I submit and okay, end stage. So I just then click on finish activity, right? Was about the different stages, and just to make sure that all of you get a complete overview on our upcoming meetups, we have added those tags here where you can just, rather than actually clicking on scrolling down and looking for the meetup in your particular city, you can just take a look at the various meetups which are happening on the right hand side of your screen, and you can just click on join, and it'll take you to the same stage, and you can confirm your presence. So next up, we have Abhishek Gupta, who's the Senior Developer Advocate in Microsoft. And we are glad that he has taken some time from his busy schedule to join us over this webinar and share his knowledge on the fundamentals of Microsoft Azure, and also introducing all our viewers with the cognitive services. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thanks a lot, Azhar. So glad to be here speaking to all of you. I think we have about 52 participants, so about 45 odd developers. We're super happy. So like Azhar said, I am a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft. And what I basically do is I work on a lot of Azure services in general, and also contribute to open source projects, mainly in the container and Kubernetes ecosystem. And again, like Azhar mentioned, my agenda for today is very simple. I want you to just be conversant and get introduced to Azure in general for those of you who might not be familiar. And then I'll run you through a quick overview of cognitive services and top it off with a very short and sweet demo, hopefully. Right. So next slide, please, Azhar. So Azure, in very simple terms, Azure is a collection of cloud services. There are about 200 plus services, so it's obviously not possible to enumerate them all within a slide or even multiple slides. So here is a quick snapshot. Think of it as a 10,000 feet sort of overview of the Azure cloud ecosystem. So it all starts with the fundamentals, right? Right at the bottom, if you see, there is the infrastructure or IaaS, infrastructure as a service components, which are your bread and butter compute stack, networking, storage, and rounded off by security and identity, which are not piecemeal solutions. They are built into the core fabric, the core infrastructure of Azure. And as you move up the stack, you get into these individual services, which are essentially called PaaS, or platform as a service components, right? And finally, last but not the least, you have these edge services or IoT solutions, which obviously I cannot go into the detail, which are super exciting, like Azure Sphere, HoloLens, etc. And all of this is rounded off by a set of developer tools, starting off with IDEs like Visual Studio. I'm pretty confident many of you might have used it. And obviously GitHub, any open source or proprietary developer has surely used GitHub, which is a collaboration platform for developers, which I think is home to like almost 40 million developers, if I'm not mistaken. And not to forget the low code components or services like Power Apps and Power BI. So that's a quick overview of Azure. And I definitely want to I don't want to move ahead without mentioning that in terms of the regions or global presence, Azure currently has about 55, if I get it correctly, give or take a few regions here and there. So 55 regions spread across the globe, which it's sort of, if you think about some of the other cloud vendors combined, it is actually more than them. So something which I definitely wanted to highlight here. Obviously, this is spread across North America, Europe, APAC, including India. So you see, right? So 55 odd regions across the globe right now. So if, like me, you are a hardcore application developer, service developer, or backend component guy, or if you build services, these category of services within Azure is something which you would really want to look at. I'm being a little biased, I know, but I definitely wanted to highlight these services which sort of build the foundation for building any sizable and scalable backend product, right? Starting with containers, there are offerings for managed databases, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and serverless capabilities as well, like Azure Functions and so forth. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of, so we spoke about the breadth of Azure, but I'm going to just take some time to quickly talk about cognitive services, which is sort of a specific service within the AI and ML umbrella, so to speak. So essentially, very simply, if I had to put it simply, cognitive services really provides an abstraction on top of these complex AI and ML algorithms. Now, I am not an AI ML expert, but if any one of you knows or is an expert or aware of this field, you know the kind of complexity which it entails. So what cognitive services does is sort of abstract all this complexity and offers to you, the developers, a very simplified API, right? And what you see on your screen right now are the different categories of cognitive services, essentially. So this is decision. So if you were to use the decision API, it would sort of respond to you or surface recommendations which you can use within your intelligent applications. Speech APIs literally allow you to hear and speak to your users or whatever applications you embed these APIs in. And if you talk about language, they help you with NLP, text processing, text translation. Same goes with vision. With vision, you can process images as well as videos. The search APIs give you essentially the power of Bing search as APIs, right? So it is as powerful as that. And last but not the least, all these APIs are obviously available within the Azure cloud ecosystem as first-class citizens, but you can also run them as Docker containers within. You can bring them and run within your own ecosystem or another cloud provider. It doesn't really matter, but it's the API and all the functionality is still going to remain the same, right? So that is something which I definitely wanted to highlight there. Next slide, please. So in terms of real world of practical uses, right? So think about a real-time image processing or video streaming services on which you're running analytics or surveillance. So you can embed the Vision API, for example, to extract intelligent insights out of these videos or images. Similarly, think about a customized application or a mobile app where you have inbuilt or embedded navigation component, for example. Now you, or any component for that matter. Now think about using the speech APIs to be able to convert from speech to text or vice versa, so that you can have an engaging conversation with your user. So the same thing applies to language. As I mentioned, you can use them for text translation and to harness the power of natural language processing. The same goes for search or knowledge. So if I talk about knowledge base, think about bots which you can embed within your web applications, and they can make use of the intelligent services like Q&A Maker to be able to, again, have these intelligent, engaging conversations with your customers, depending upon whatever domain is it that you're deploying these components on. And as I said, search is literally Bing search like an API. So yeah, that's these. So I just want to give you a quick snapshot of the real world and practical solutions. Now, why would you? I mean, really, what is the USP? For me, it is about two things, right? As a developer, what I would need is, for any cloud service for that matter, not only cognitive services, to give me a very easy and simple interface to get started, right? So in case of cognitive services, it is all about REST APIs. So all you need to do is, spin up an instance of a specific service, which I'm actually going to demo this a little bit. And there you go. You have a API key, and you can simply use these REST APIs from the platform or language of your choice, right? REST is ubiquitous. If you have an HTTP client, if you have a programming language which supports an HTTP client, boom, you're good to go. That's pretty much all you need. Actually, the landing page for Azure itself, just to highlight this, azure.microsoft.com. If you know about Microsoft Azure and you do not have an account already, just feel free to browse to azure.microsoft.com, where I am right now, and click on this free account, and basically just navigate through the entire process, and you should, at the end of it, you should have a free account with 12 months of worth of free services, right? So I would highly recommend you try this out. So I'm going to now switch to the Azure portal itself. So essentially portal.azure.com, ignore the other part because obviously I'm navigating I've navigated to a different menu right now. So just head over to portal.azure.com, and I'm going to go to the home screen. So here is the landing page. Now I'm going to quickly try and familiarize to you, this entire platform in whatever limited time I have. So I was talking initially about a few services. Remember the compute, storage, networking. So I'll quickly run you through those, just individual offerings and services real quick. So if you see here, I'm in all services menu. And here is a category, right? So it is always easier to bucket components and services. So here are the large, the high level categories, so to speak. So if I were to go into compute, for example, right? So many of you will be familiar with virtual machines, things like disks, and so on and so forth. So your bread and butter compute components. And then the networking pieces, where you have things like you can spin up virtual networks, load balancers, application gateways, expose public IPs, etc. In terms of storage, you have what we call Azure Storage Services, which sort of all-encompassing service of file share, blob storage, and so on and so forth. And moving on to managed databases, like I mentioned, if you remember, from a developer or a service architecture standpoint, databases, containers are some of the bread and butter and common services. So Azure Cosmos DB is actually a multimodal database, sort of advanced database offering. And there are other open source databases whose managed offerings are offered within the Azure ecosystem. Think about MySQL, MariaDB, PostgreSQL are some of the widely popular open source databases which are offered as completely managed offerings within Azure. If I were to move on to containers, another important piece in any modern software system today. So there's Azure Container Instances, which helps you run containers in the cloud, Container Registry, which is a fully Docker V2 compliant registry, private registry on the cloud, Kubernetes services, and so on and so forth. And finally, I'll move on to AI and machine learning stack, which obviously consists of machine learning, which is a first-class managed service on Azure, Machine Learning Studio, and last but not the least, cognitive services, right? So I'm going to just quickly go into cognitive services real quick. And if I were to try and create a cognitive service right now, you can simply click the add button. And if you see, I've been moved into a menu which lists a lot of services like bot service, a bunch of cognitive services. I can click on see more if I wanted to, but what I'll do is I'll just quickly search for, say, for example, I'm going to show you a demo of translation services. So let me search for translation text service, right? So this is an overview. You can look at the plans and so on and so forth. But if you wanted to quickly create an instance or API in the cloud, which can give you text translation on the fly, simply hop over to translation text, click create, and if you have a valid subscription and everything, you should be good to go. I'm not going to create this right now in the interest of time, but I just want to make sure I demonstrate to you how easy it is. So I'm going to go back to the cognitive services menu right here and show you one of the text translation component, which I have previously installed for the purposes of this demo. So this is a translator service. So when you click on a cognitive service component, you are actually taken to a quick start page here, which is super convenient. So you have a key here. This is actually a secure API key. Don't worry. All these will be deleted or refreshed at the end of this demo. And it's just a very simple landing page for you to get started. So it says, hey, here's the API reference. Here are the documentation and code samples. So let me just quickly open this API reference right from this portal, and I'll be taken into the documentation right here. Right, so you see this is docs.microsoft.com, and we are here within cognitive services and text translation, right? So if I were to look at the translate API specifically, so you have all the details here for you as a developer to quickly get started, right? So for example, it tells you that, hey, to use the translator text API, you will have to use a post request to this particular URL, right? Now, this is what I'm going to demonstrate to you real quick. So let me hop over to my IDE. This is Visual Studio Code. So this is the URL which you actually just saw, and this is the API key which I copied for obviously convenience purposes right here. So what I'm going to do is quickly show you how to make a REST API call to this translator services right now. So I'm going to use the command line tool curl, which I already have. I'm going to build the command right here. So obviously the service is secure, so I'll have to use the API key. And this is going to be a post call, like I mentioned. And to pass in the API key in the form of a header, all I need to do is obviously copy the name of the header and pass in this API key, which I have copied. And I'll have to add another header because I need to specify the content type for the service to understand. So we are going to deal in JSON. That is, the cognitive services REST API deal with JSON data. That's it. And obviously you'll have to give some data, right? You'll have to add data within JSON data within your post payload, which I'm going to do here. So, excuse me. So this is simply an array, and I'm going to this is actually a structured schema, so to speak. So if I were to, so I'm going to pass a text, and in this case, this is going to be, well, say hello, what is your name? So this is going to be my payload, right? And what I'm going to do is obviously I need to point the curl command at a URL, at a service. In this case, it is the base URL for the cognitive service itself. Now, this is the URL itself, right? So api.cognitiveservices, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is actually the translate API. And what is it going to translate to? So I need to choose a language. So for example, I can add, say, hey, to maybe, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with Italian, but I'll still choose it anyway. So that's it. I have created my request is ready. I'm going to just quickly add this for the sake of pretty print here. So let's see if I have this done right. I'm going to quickly go into my terminal, paste this, and okay, this went well. So you see here what happened. What I did via this curl command is post a payload to the translate service API in real time, saying, hey, just translate hello, what is your name for me, to Italian. So what it did was it actually detected automatically that this input language is English, and it gave me back a translation. I'm not going to try and spell it and look like a fool, so I'll skip that. But if I were to say, for example, change this to let me get my screen French, just to make sure that So yeah, bonjour seems like French. Yeah, and the same thing, say, for example, would work with something like Hindi. Why not? Yeah, so it says Namaste, aapka naam kya hai? Right? So yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it from a demo perspective. You saw how easy it is. I used the simple REST API interfaces of cognitive translation services. I used curl, but obviously this applies to any programming language or platform or component or service which you might want to leverage and embed your intelligent applications in. So thank you very much. That's it from my side. Back to you, Azhar.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. That was indeed a very, very informative, and I guess it did actually help our viewers to get a better idea on how exactly do they go ahead with the Microsoft Azure platform. And moving on to our next speaker, we once again have Mukund Sri Gopal, who is the Global Head Developer Marketing for Automation Anywhere. And he will be 2019 and will be giving an introduction on their platform. So over to you, Mukund.
Yes. So thanks for that comprehensive overview. So in the next 10 or so minutes, what I'm going to do is provide an introduction of Automation Anywhere's flagship RPA platform called called A2019. And I'll also provide before that, give you an introduction to what robotic process automation is, right? For some of you, you may actually be very new to RPA, so it might help you to get some background. In subsequent webinars and meetups, we will actually be running hands-on sessions where you will actually get to build something and watch a trainer or an instructor actually build something and follow along. This is just an introduction, so we will focus, right now on just getting you to understand what RPA is and how to use the Automation Anywhere A2019 enterprise platform. All right, so let's talk about RPA a little bit, right? So RPA stands for Robotic Process Automation. In the last 5 or so years, RPA has really become one of the fastest growing technology sectors in the world. It is one of the top 8 emerging technologies, along with AI and IoT and so on. And as you can see here, McKinsey estimates that something in the range of between, and that's a fairly broad range, but between 75 and 375 million people will end up reskilling themselves, because automation is really going to impact people across industries, across business functions, across whatever you do. There is an increasing adoption of automation by companies. And why is that, right? That's happening because automation platforms have gotten very, really sophisticated. And so what they enable businesses to do is essentially offload a lot of the repetitive, mundane, high volume tasks that today humans do, right? So there are people, for example, who are processing invoices. You work for Amazon.com, you have to process, 1,000 invoices a day, right? Now, I'm sure that Amazon doesn't use humans to, operate manually, but a lot of businesses, in fact, the majority of the businesses do so, right? So any operation or any business process where people, humans, repeat the same kinds of tasks over and over again at high volumes, right? And where these tasks are repetitive, can essentially be automated, which means that developers like yourselves can build robots that essentially operate on applications like Microsoft Azure, and automate business processes that touch those applications. I'll talk about this a little more, but there are 2 ways for a bot to engage with an application. It can either directly emulate a human user and interact with the front end of the application, or it can access the application through the backend through APIs. So I'll talk about that some more later. And also, given the amount of, the extent to which RPA is going to be adopted in the coming years, there's at least going to be, just in India, there's going to be more than 300,000 new jobs, most of them being developer jobs that are going to be created in India. So this is something that should be exciting to you as developers, especially those of you who are either students or early career developers who are looking for really exciting job opportunities. RPA is a space, and especially intelligent automation that combines AI and traditional robotic process automation. So this slide just sort of reaffirms the fact that the size of the bubbles here indicate the size of the market among emerging technologies. So you can see that RPA is among the top 5 emerging markets in the world, and will be so in the next, continue to be so in the next 5 to 10 years. Now let's look at, really what is robotic process automation. So let's break down each of those three words. So there's essentially, at the root of everything is a process. What is a process? Think about, let me give you any example of what a process. So let me give you one example. Let's say there's, employee onboarding that HR teams do, right? And by the way, the types of processes that can be automated by RPA are not specific to any one industry or any one vertical. So any business process that involves the use of information systems, regardless of which industry or which business function or what type of activity, can be automated. So the starting point is a process. A process is a set of steps that are repeated every time an activity needs to be performed, right? So I spoke about HR, employee onboarding. So let's say you're a new employee, you're joining a new company, right? So there's a whole bunch of things that different teams within the company have to do to get you onboarded as an employee, right? So for example, you have to be set up in the payroll system of the company. IT has to set you up, set up your email account. They have to allocate a laptop for you. If there are any other, any applications that business applications that you use, your collaboration tools, your, chat tools that company uses, all of that has to be provisioned for every time a new employee joins. So imagine the amount of work that is involved there, right? Your benefits have to be set up. You have to be added to the, I'm thinking 401k, but that's that's in the US. In India, you have a Provident Fund, right? So you have to be signed up for the Provident Fund and so on. So there's like 40 or 50 different activities that happen on the average to onboard an employee, right? And these are all repetitive processes. Every time a new employee joins, you have to repeat most of those tasks over and over again. So these types of tasks can be automated, and companies are increasingly automating these types of repetitive tasks. So that is the automation bit. And how do they automate it? They do so using, can you go back, please?
Sure.
They do so using robots that you build on a platform like Automation Anywhere. So Automation Anywhere, so therefore, what is Automation Anywhere Enterprise A2019? It is a software platform on which you can build software-based bots or robots which automate repetitive business processes. So once you build it, thereafter, you can have the bot run every time, say, for example, an employee has to be onboarded, and the bot will go through all of the steps and automate the entire task. So you essentially just have to code it and develop it once, and then it offloads that work from humans, so humans can then focus on more useful, higher valued activities. Next slide. So why is RPA so hot right now? And it's getting hotter and hotter, right? So it's because humans intrinsically, despite today being more intelligent than machines, are prone to committing errors. As humans get tired, right? As humans sometimes don't pay attention. Sometimes they're focused on their cell phones, on Facebook while they should be working, right? They may be distracted. They may be upset about something, right? So many of these factors affect the accuracy of the output that human workers perform. Now, if it's a repetitive task, once you build a bot and train to do it, the bot will run accurately 10,000 times, 100,000 times without making an error. Right? The barrier, one of the things that makes RPA unique is that unlike traditional software development platforms, there's a low barrier to entry, right? So it's a low-code development platform where you essentially, you can actually do a lot without really writing a lot of code. So you can drag and drop functionalities, you can use configuration, you can configure functions that you drag and drop, and then basically piece them together into a workflow and run it, and that basically creates an automation. But of course, if you're deeply technical, you can do a lot more with automation. So if you write code in Python, if you write code in C#, or in a number of other programming languages, you can actually invoke that code from an RPA bot. So that's where you can write a DLL to, for example, invoke various functions within Azure, and you can build a bot that calls that DLL as a part of, or calls a function or a set of functions within that DLL, as a part of a series of steps involved in automating a process, right? So the technical barrier to get started is low, but for those of you and most of you who are technical can actually really amp up the output of the process that you automate using your development skills. Consistency is again, one of those things where it ties back to accuracy. It's a non-invasive technology in that in order to deploy RPA, unlike other, older generations of automation solutions, like business process automation, you don't have to change anything about the way your process operates currently. You don't have to re-engineer your process. Your process, with all of its flaws, all of its deficiencies, can continue to be what it is. RPA will adapt to the process as it is. You don't have to improve the process, fix things in order for RPA to operate on a process. Reliability helps in businesses be more compliant to compliance, regulatory and compliance guidelines. It improves employee productivity because employees or humans can now focus on more interesting work, more impactful work, as opposed to doing routine, repetitive work over and over again, which can be incredibly mind-numbing and does not really put to use the human ability, right? Human faculties, human intelligence, human creativity, so on. And that really helps improve the morale of employees within an organization. People like you, right? So people like you, even engineers, even developers can actually automate a lot of the things that they do using RPA. And so when you actually install the Automation Anywhere Community Edition, start thinking really about what are some things in your personal life that you can automate. Can you go to the next slide?
Sure.
And before I get into this, just to extend upon what I was saying in the last slide, in your own personal lives, right? So let us say something is simple, right? So let's say you have to log into your bank account and you want to download, the last 1 year's financial, your statements, right, for your account, right? Now, as advanced as, bank sites are, you still today have to go through, you have to click on each statement and then click download and then go to the next statement, click download, and so on, right? So it's a painful, repetitive task. So you can easily write a bot that basically logs in as you. Of course, you want to be, now as you become a more advanced developer, you will learn to really secure that kind of sensitive information. You can use a credential vault to store, user, login credentials, and the bot can actually, authenticate itself and access that login information. It can log in as you. It can emulate you as a human. Log into the bank account. It can basically go access all of the statements, download them one at a time, and then save them, maybe to a folder, and then maybe create a zip file. Maybe email that zip file over to somebody or upload that to a cloud, and then maybe send a notification to someone saying, here are my bank statements. You can now go ahead and process my loan, right? As an example. So think about, RPA is really powerful in really making your own, outside of your work, right, as a developer, in making your own life, much, much easier, where you have the same types of digital activities that you have to keep doing in many cases. So, what are some things that can be automated with RPA? There are some very simple, things, that you can do. For example, let's say you have an Excel file with, 100 records, and each of those records has to be entered, into a, so let's say you've been to an industry event, you've captured, 100 leads there, and those leads have to be entered from an Excel spreadsheet into, say, Salesforce, right? Your CRM solution. Or actually Microsoft Dynamics CRM more appropriately. So you can actually write a bot that opens the Excel file, goes through it line by line, takes every field in every row and inputs that into a web form and then hits submit, right? So that's filling in forms. It can basically automate it can automate activities that you do on the web, like clicking on the buttons on a web page in a certain sequence, and literally anything that you do as a user, in engaging with websites can be replicated by a bot. It can do simple things like opening emails. For example, as soon as a new email comes, the bot can automatically get triggered by, through an event that the bot recognizes. and then it can open the email. If the email has an attachment, it can download it. You can add special conditions, like if the subject is something, if the subject is, new invoice, right? Then only then download the attachment, open the attachment, parse it, take the data, submit it to SAP, and then keep monitoring for the next email to come in, right? It can also scrape websites. So it can basically, so for example, if you want to go to NSE, National Stock Exchange website, and you want to download the top 10 stocks of the day, data about the top 10 stocks, right? So you can write a bot that basically goes to the NSE site every day, first thing in the morning, while you're drinking your coffee and getting ready to go to work. The bot can go automatically log in as a scheduled operation, go to NSE, identify the top 10 tickers, pull all of the data, how much has the stock, price gone up by today? What is the market cap? What is, what are analysts saying about it? A bunch of information that's available on the website. Scrape that data. It can create a nice, beautiful Word document for you, and then email it to you. So when you go to work, open it, you see an email with all of the information that you're looking for, right? It can perform calculations, computations. It can operate data, right? So if you have to access data from a database or data from a spreadsheet, data from a terminal. So if you have to access a terminal, like a mainframe, you want to run a query there, you want to extract some data, you can really, or you want to invoke an API, you want to invoke Azure's cognitive services to really, you have an audio file, you want to convert it into text, right? You can run all of those different types of services or data extraction activities using a bot, and then stitch them all together, all of those activities together in a workflow, right? So, that includes databases. I mentioned APIs. You can invoke literally any third-party library. It could be a Python library, it could be a C#, DLL, and so on. And then you can also script inline within the RPA, within Automation Anywhere Enterprise A2019. You can actually do scripting, for example, in Python and in VBScript and so on. A number of popular scripting languages. You can actually write your scripting, do your scripting within the enterprise platform. Next slide. And like I mentioned earlier, RPA is not, it's a horizontal technology, right? It's horizontal in every way. It applies to any industry. It is nothing industry specific, which means you can use it literally in any industry. If you're a healthcare company, or you deal with transcripted medical data, if you're a transportation company, or literally any company, right, that uses information systems and that has repetitive processes, can use RPA. Next slide. Now some specific use case examples of there's thousands of examples, thousands of different use cases for RPA, probably tens of thousands of use cases, but I've just picked 4 because in the interest of time, specifically, pointing to things that you could do with, Azure Cognitive Services here, right? So let's say you're an insurance company, right? Every time somebody files a claim, one of your customers files an insurance claim. So let's say you're an automobile insurance company. One of your customers, had a road accident and they want to file a claim. You can actually automate that entire process where the claim is received, it is processed, data from the claim is extracted. The pictures that are submitted with the claim are, run through Azure, image recognition to really detect, how serious the damages are, and then you appraise the value of those damages, and then you assess the risk of actually the claim being a fraudulent claim, and then if the risk is regarded as being high, you can essentially forward that claim to a human processor, and if the risk is very low, assessed to be very low, using your AI solution, then you can essentially automatically approve the claim. I see somebody's having fun drawing on the. Looks like we have a child. Thank you. So, that's an example for insurance claims, processing insurance claims. Another example is customer support, right? So let's say you're a customer care operator within a company and you get calls from customers, right? Or let's say your website has a chatbot, and the chatbot acts as sort of the first line of response for somebody who wants some information, a customer that wants an information, right? So you can use Microsoft's cognitive services to really sort of interact with a human. But once you recognize what the human is asking for, you may need to access 5 different systems in the backend to extract that, data in order to compose a response and send it back to the human, right? So you can actually have a bot running in the background that is invoked by your cognitive service that essentially pulls out that information to compose that response. Similarly, banking, right? So loan processing, you can, if somebody is going around applying for loans left, right, and center, and if they're doing sort of fraudulent applications and so on, right? You can actually write a bot that uses sort of that really sort of correlates and collates data from various data sources to establish a risk profile for an applicant and then determine whether that loan has to be approved or declined. In healthcare, digitization of patient records. So you look at, you have X-rays and so on. These X-rays can be digitized. They can be annotated using Azure's cognitive services, and then those annotated images can essentially be stored somewhere. And all of that, those processes can be orchestrated with a bot that is built on Automation Anywhere's, A2019 platform. Next slide. Now, what does all of this, help companies accomplish, right? They essentially help businesses build a new digital workforce, and this digital workforce, right, can perform, is much like a human, right? So a human can do actions. You can move your hands, you can lift objects, you can think, right? So the intelligence that's available both within the machine learning capabilities within the Automation Anywhere platform, as well as with other third-party services, specifically Azure, right? Can be invoked from the platform. So there's the ability to act like a human, think like a human, and then analyze data, right? With the Automation Anywhere Community Edition, the developer edition, you actually also have access to the analytics package through which you can actually derive insights around the operation of your automation infrastructure. So all of that essentially creates a digital workforce, and this digital workforce works side by side with humans and offloads all of the painful, repetitive, boring tasks from humans so that humans can go do better, bigger, more creative, more productive things. Next slide. A quick overview of Automation Anywhere's product stack. The rectangular box that you see at the bottom is essentially Automation Anywhere's enterprise RPA platform, which the latest version of it is called A2019. It's a cloud-based platform. It has an IDE, which we call Bot Creator, which is where you essentially have all of the the drag and drop functionality, all of the scripting capabilities. It's where you basically build and design a workflow. And then you have a runtime environment that's called the bot runner. So that's essentially what compiles that, the automation that you built and then runs it. And then you have something called the control room, which is essentially a management layer. So it's through the control room that you can do role-based access control. You can determine who can run which bot. You can add new users who can go build bots and so on. So a lot of the admin functions are available in the control room. And then Automation Anywhere's AI platform is called IQBot. So IQBot is specifically focused towards processing digital documents, right? So I mentioned invoices earlier. If you get invoices as image files, somebody takes a photograph of an invoice, sends it to you, and and you have to basically process that image, extract text from that image, and so on. You can use IQBot. You can also use Microsoft's Azure Cognitive Services here, right? So you can use either, or you can even use both, and to ensure that your data extraction is accurate. You can do it once with IQBot, you can do it once with Azure, and you can cross-verify that doubly check that the data is accurate. And then Bot Insight is the analytics platform that I spoke about. And then we have a marketplace called BotStore, where you find a number of third-party integrations, and you have pre-built bots that can be leveraged to automate business process. And a lot of these bots operate on Azure as well. So you can go to the bot store to look at examples for automations that others have built, and get inspiration from it around ideas that you can build yourself. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to take the next 5 or so minutes to introduce the A2019 platform, and then we can wrap it up with a quick Q&A session. So what is, again, so Automation Anywhere A2019, also known as Enterprise A2019, is the industry's leading, and it's RPA platform. It's the only RPA platform that's web-based. It's on the cloud, available as a service. And it has, both native as well as third-party AI integrations available out of the box. And, it offers a very intuitive, easy to use user experience. So you will see as soon as you get started with it that you will be able to, hit the ground running very quickly. Next slide. So this is what, I'm not going to, because we're running out of time, I'm not going to actually open up the platform and show you the software. But once you create your account and when you log in, this is what the bot creation environment will look like. Without going into all of the details here, as you can see, it's a very visual, environment, right? So on the left, you see a list of actions. You can literally, drag and drop an action into your workflow modeling interface. So in the middle, you see, it's the thing that looks like a flow chart, right? So you can actually build something that looks like a flow chart, but it's for business processes where you can define a sequence of activities that execute in that order, one after another. So this is a very sort of WYSIWYG way of defining a workflow. But to the right is, to the right of that, you see, that screen is not entirely visible because we're trying to show many things all in one screen. But if you expanded that screen, you'll actually see the code that the WYSIWYG interface, the drag and drop functionality creates. It auto-generates code, right? Now, on top of that, you can even actually import, Python code or even script inline. You can write Python scripts or, VB script or whatever inline and invoke those scripts as well from your automation. And then it has an intuitive search functionality and drag and drop functionality and so on. So it's a really easy to use platform that is meant to help you get really going quickly and start. You can literally build your first bot with no background on the platform in about 30 minutes. Create some of the things that some of the new capabilities that are available in the platform that weren't previously available in our older versions. So I mentioned earlier, there's inline scripting support, Python, VB script, and so on. We've actually vastly expanded the number of different types of variables that are supported. You have objects, you have, you have more advanced strings, you have float and other types of variables, which make it now almost comparable to a traditional, programming language. I spoke about native as well as integration with third-party AI services that's available out of the box. But you can also write your own integrations and invoke them. And then I spoke about scripting earlier, so I want to emphasize that one more time. Next slide. So I'll pass this back to Azhar, but before I do so, I just want to point out a few things. Please check out the resources tab in the Skillenza site, Automathon site, where you can find a link to sign up for Community Edition and really start going through courses and the documentation. And Abhishek spoke about docs for for Azure Cloud. You'll find that as well in the resources. You'll find links to Automation Anywhere's documentation as well, and training courses. You can do a 30-minute course that will really help you get set up and build your first bot. So please consume those and start forming your teams. Azhar, I'll pass it back to you to wrap it up.
Thank you so much, Mukund. Indeed, it was actually amazing to hear you out on the demand for RPA in India itself, and also thanks a lot for introducing all of us to the Automation Anywhere's 8 2019 platform. I'm pretty confident that it was very helpful for our viewers out there, and we've been introduced to Microsoft Azure and Cognitive Services, and also Automation Anywhere's 8 2019 platform. What's next is some of you might be having that thought, right? And for those of you who have already registered, you guys are already aware on how we are going to go ahead with the entire program. But for those of you who are not yet sure on what's going to happen next, and maybe you might have been informed by your friends that there's a webinar happening. So let me just quickly give you an overview of this entire program. So all you have to do is you have to register for this particular program, that is Automaton India 2020 over Skillenza platform. And post that, you can sign up on the Automation Anywhere's 2019 Community Edition platform, and also Microsoft Azure, as it was demoed by Abhishek. And post that, you can go ahead and click on the stages where you can form teams, you can register to attend for webinars, meetups, and also the quizzes which will be hosted over the platform. Apart from that, like Mukund emphasized on the resources, so the resources can be found over the activity page on Skillenza platform, where you can get all the necessary resource materials which have been provided by Automation Anywhere and Microsoft as well. Now, quickly giving you all a gist once again. So these are the dates and these are the cities that we'll be organizing the meetups in. That is in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi, Pune, and once again in Bangalore. So you guys can take a look at the timeline of the webinars and the quizzes as well over our platform. Now we'll just quickly move on to the Q&A session. So I'd just like to, put forth a number of questions that have been put ahead by our viewers. So one of the question was number of members. How many members are allowed to form a team for the Automaton program? So the team size is 1 to 5. So you can also work as an individual developer, and you can have a maximum of 5 members in your team, right? But we always suggest our developers to work in teams so that you can come out with the best solution. So make the most out of the maximum number of developers who are allowed to join the team. Then the second is how do we go ahead and form the team, right? So I believe we have given a live demo session over this webinar, and just to bring it to your attention, we have recorded this webinar, and we will be pushing it out on the activity page where there will be a tab for webinar, and you can take a look at the recorded video once we are uploaded over the platform. And also we will be sending out emails for those of you who are viewing it, and also for the ones who were not able to join us, unfortunately, so that they can make the most out of it. Then third one is attending meetups mandatory, and which activities would we be scored based on, right? So attending meetups is, I wouldn't say it is mandatory, but it is an opportunity for you guys to, network with people, developers who are taking part in this particular program, and also it'll help you explore more about Automation Anywhere platform and Microsoft Azure, because we'll be having speakers who will be giving a knowledge based session on those particular platforms. And also, like Mukund mentioned earlier, they will be taking you through their platform, giving a live demo so that you guys can make the most out of it. Now, I have one question for
Azhar, Azhar, I'm sorry. May I just add something to the
Sure,
response
sure,
to the
please.
previous question?
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate that the only things that you're actually going to be scored for are A, completing the online quizzes. So, 10% of the total score that goes towards qualifying for the live, Grand Hack and Career Fair, would come from completing the online quizzes. In other words, if every member of your team, if you have a team of 5 people, for example, if every member of your team completes and passes the online quizzes, then your team will automatically get 10%. Now, for the remaining 90%, you will have to basically build an automation. You have to use automation anyways, enterprise platform, and build something around that either uses Azure, for example, cognitive services, or operates on Azure services. You have to combine the two platforms and build a solution, and that will constitute the remaining 90% of your score. And so out of those 100 points, the teams that get the highest score will be invited to participate in the live hack and career fair. I hope that's helpful. So meetups and webinars are for your own education and networking. They're not going to impact your selection for the Grand Hack.
Right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Mukund, for talking about it. And also, I have one question for Abhishek. Abhishek, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
perfect. All right. So we have one question where they want to know a little more about the Azure credits or the free trial. While you were demoing it, I guess you were taking them through the platform. And also you mentioned that they will be given the free trial for 12 months, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yes.
I believe
So essentially this is all self-service, to be honest. So like I said, if you go to azure.microsoft.com, and I'm going to paste the link here in the chat just to make sure everyone is aware of this. You can go here and actually apply for, or just go through the entire workflow of subscribing for a free subscription. That's pretty much it, and you should have it in your kitty.
All right, perfect. Thanks a lot for sharing the link, Abhishek. So
Sure.
I guess that's all that we had in the Q&A session. And once again, I'd like to thank Mukund especially a lot, because he's taken his time all the way from Singapore to join this call. Thanks a lot, Mukund, for joining us this evening. And also to you as well, Abhishek, thank you so much for joining. And thanks a lot to all our viewers as well. So please be tuned on to Automathon India 2020 program, because we'll be having a lot of entertaining and fun-filled webinars, along with meetups, quizzes. And if at all you guys have any queries regarding the entire program, please feel free to drop in an email at azhar@skillenza.com. Or you guys can also use the help button over our platform to just shoot out your query, and we'll be more than happy to make sure that we clarify it for you guys.